I used to think I was a decent airplane passenger, mind my own business, follow the basic rules, keep quiet during the flight. Then I discovered a new study by Morning Consult that surveyed 2,000 Americans about what really drives them crazy on planes. Turns out 76% of travelers are annoyed by the number one behavior on this list, and I was guilty of it on almost every flight without even realizing it. Even worse, some behaviors I thought were perfectly normal are actually infuriating fellow passengers at rates I never imagined. After digging into this research and talking to flight attendants about what they see daily, I discovered there's an entire unwritten code of airplane etiquette that most of us are breaking without knowing it. These aren't just suggestions. They're the difference between being a considerate traveler and being that passenger everyone hopes isn't sitting near them. Number 1. The overhead bin hog. Let's start with something that bothers 42% of passengers, putting non-carry-on items in overhead compartments. Here's what I learned from a United flight attendant during a delayed departure last month. She was explaining to passengers why the boarding process was taking forever, and it all came down to bin space management. People are putting jackets, purses, and backpacks up there, she said, when those items should go under the seat in front of them. Think about the math. Each overhead bin has limited space designed for larger carry-on suitcases and roller bags. When passengers toss smaller items up there first, they're essentially stealing space from travelers boarding behind them who have nowhere else to put their larger bags. This is why so many of us end up having to gate-check our carry-ons at the last minute. It's not because the plane is full. It's because the passengers who boarded before us treated the overhead bins like their personal storage closets. My solution now? Everything that fits under the seat in front of me stays there initially. Once we reach cruising altitude and I need more legroom, I can slide my backpack from under the seat to behind my knees. It's a simple adjustment that doesn't cost anyone else their bin space. Number 2. The seat switcher. Moving up the annoyance scale, 53% of passengers get frustrated by seat switching requests. My colleague Sarah learned this lesson the expensive way on a flight from Chicago to Denver. She'd paid extra for an aisle seat specifically because she has a medical condition that requires frequent bathroom access. 20 minutes before boarding, a family approached her asking if she'd trade for a middle seat 3 rows back so they could sit together. The pressure was intense. Other passengers were listening. The family kept emphasizing it was for their young child, and Sarah felt like the villain for saying no. But here's the thing. She paid for that specific seat for a specific reason, just like everyone else who chooses their seats in advance. The unwritten rule is simple. Stick to your assigned seat unless you're offering someone a clear upgrade. If you're asking someone to move from an aisle to a middle, from a window to an aisle, or from the front to the back, you're essentially asking them to subsidize your poor planning. If you're particular about seating, book early during the 24-hour check-in window when seats open up. I set a phone reminder for exactly 24 hours and 1 minute before departure to grab the best available options before other passengers wake up and start checking in. Number 3. The crying baby situation. At 59% annoyance rate, crying babies and misbehaving children create one of the trickiest situations for everyone. I'm not a parent myself, so I approach this from the perspective of both frustrated passengers and overwhelmed parents. Last year, on a red-eye flight to London, I watched a mother struggle with a screaming toddler for 2 hours while other passengers shot dirty looks and made audible complaints. Here's what I learned from talking to frequent flying parents. Flying with kids is genuinely difficult. Air pressure changes hurt their ears. They can't understand why they're confined to a small space, and their normal coping mechanisms don't work at 35,000 feet. For parents, many airlines now offer support resources. United provides free children's travel kits with puzzles, coloring books, and sensory calming strips. Some airlines allow early boarding so families can get settled without holding up the line. For the rest of us, a little patience and quality noise-canceling headphones make a world of difference. That parent dealing with a meltdown is having a much worse time than you are, and they're doing their best in an impossible situation. Number 4. The short flight recliner. Here's where I apparently annoy 62% of fellow passengers. I recline my seat regardless of flight length. The etiquette around reclining is more complex than I realized. On flights under 2 hours, Many travelers consider reclining inconsiderate because the slight comfort gain doesn't justify reducing the already limited space for the person behind you. But here's my approach. I recline mindfully. Never during meal service when the person behind me needs their tray table. I recline slowly while checking behind me first. Many passengers use tray tables for drinks, and a sudden recline can cause spills. The compromise I've found works is reclining partially rather than going full back on shorter flights and always being ready to adjust if the person behind me needs to use their tray table for anything important. Number 5. The smelly food offender. At 62% annoyance, eating pungent foods during flights creates a problem in confined spaces. Airplane cabins are pressurized environments with recycled air, which means smells linger and intensify. That innocent tuna sandwich becomes overwhelming when you're trapped in a metal tube with 150 other people for hours. I learned this firsthand when a passenger near me opened a container of leftover curry on a morning flight. The smell was so strong that people 3 rows away started covering their noses. The flight attendant eventually had to ask him to put it away because other passengers were complaining. The rule is simple. If you wouldn't eat it in a small, poorly ventilated room full of strangers, don't eat it on a plane. Stick to mild, low-odor foods, or better yet, buy something neutral from the airline if you're hungry during the flight. Number 6. The aisle blocker. Blocking the aisle during boarding frustrates 66% of passengers, and it's completely avoidable. Picture this scenario. You're in line to board, everyone's eager to get to their seats and stow their bags, and someone 3 people ahead stops dead in the aisle to reorganize their carry-on. The entire boarding process grinds to a halt while one person sorts through their belongings. I watched this exact situation unfold last month at Dallas-Fort Worth. A business traveler stopped mid-aisle to find his laptop charger, dig out his noise-canceling headphones, and rearrange his briefcase. Meanwhile, 40 people behind him waited in the jet bridge while the gate agent made increasingly frustrated announcements about boarding delays. The solution is preparation. Before you get on the plane, transfer anything you'll need during flight from your carry-on to your personal item bag. Once that carry-on goes in the overhead bin, you won't have easy access to it until landing. Number 7. The impatient exit rusher. 67% of passengers get annoyed by people who try to exit before their rows turn. There's an unspoken system to deplaning that works efficiently when everyone follows it. Rows exit from front to back in order. It's simple, it's fair, and it keeps the process moving smoothly. But there's always that person from row 18 who jumps into the aisle the second the seatbelt sign turns off and tries to push their way to the front. They're not saving any meaningful time, maybe 2 or 3 minutes at most, but they're creating chaos and resentment among passengers who are following the system. If you have a genuine tight connection, inform a flight attendant before landing. They can often coordinate with the captain to make an announcement asking other passengers to allow people with connections to deplane first. Most travelers are understanding when there's a legitimate need rather than simple impatience. Number 8. The visibly intoxicated passenger. Being noticeably drunk bothers 70% of passengers, and there's a physiological reason why airplane drinking hits differently. I discovered this during a flight from New York to San Francisco when I ordered what I thought would be a harmless glass of wine with dinner. 2 sips in, I felt more buzzed than I would from an entire glass on the ground. The science is fascinating. Lower oxygen levels in airplane cabins amplify alcohol's effects. Your body processes alcohol differently at altitude, meaning your normal tolerance completely goes out the window. What feels like moderate drinking on the ground can make you visibly intoxicated in the air. Beyond the personal embarrassment factor, intoxicated passengers make others uncomfortable and can become disruptive without meaning to. The solution is simple. If you choose to drink during a flight, pace yourself significantly more than you would normally, and alternate with water between any alcoholic beverages. Number 9. The audio offender. Playing audio without headphones annoys 73% of passengers, and I'm surprised it's not higher. Whether it's music, videos, phone calls, or FaceTime conversations, playing sound out loud in a confined space is essentially forcing everyone around you to participate in your entertainment choices. I once sat near a passenger who conducted an entire business call on speakerphone before takeoff. For 20 minutes, our entire section got to hear detailed discussions about quarterly sales figures and staffing issues. When someone finally asked him to use headphones, he seemed genuinely surprised that anyone minded. The rule is universal. If it makes noise, use headphones. This includes phone calls, video calls, games, music, movies, and even notification sounds. If you forgot headphones, most airlines sell them on board, or you can ask a flight attendant if they have any complimentary pairs available. Number 10, the sickness spreader. Showing signs of illness bothers 75% of passengers, with older travelers finding it especially concerning. The survey data revealed interesting generational differences here. Baby boomers rated visible sickness as their top annoyance, while younger travelers were more tolerant. But regardless of age, nobody wants to be trapped in recycled air with someone who's clearly contagious. I faced this dilemma myself on a flight from Toronto to São Paulo. I was getting over a lingering cough from a cold I'd had months earlier. Not contagious, but still symptomatic. I informed the gate agent about my situation and asked if there was anywhere they could seat me away from other passengers. It turned out to be a win-win solution. They moved me to an empty row where I could cough without disturbing anyone, and other passengers could travel without worry. If you're not feeling well but must fly, consider wearing a mask, coughing into your sleeve, and asking gate agents about seating options that minimize contact with other passengers. Number 11. The hygiene violator. Displaying unhygienic behaviors annoys 74% of passengers, with 50% finding it extremely bothersome. This category covers behaviors that might seem normal at home but become problematic in shared airplane spaces. Taking shoes off, clipping nails, extensive personal grooming, activities that require personal space and privacy. The most shocking example I witnessed was a passenger who actually started clipping his fingernails during a flight. The sound alone was bad enough, but nail clippings were literally flying around the cabin. Other passengers were visibly disgusted, and a flight attendant eventually had to intervene. Airplane cabins are tight, shared spaces where what's comfortable for one person can be genuinely unpleasant for dozens of others. Save personal grooming for before or after the flight. If you absolutely must remove shoes due to swelling or discomfort, at minimum keep your socks on and be mindful of any odor issues. Number 12. The space invader. Taking up too much space tops the list, annoying 76% of passengers. This is the big one. Personal space violations in an environment where space is already severely limited. Whether it's sprawling into someone else's legroom, monopolizing both armrests, extending elbows into shared spaces, or spreading belongings into adjacent seats, space violations create immediate tension. The middle seat dilemma illustrates this perfectly. If you're in the middle seat, etiquette says you get both armrests as compensation for being sandwiched between two people. But many aisle and window passengers don't realize this and claim armrests that don't belong to them. Keep your feet, arms, hair, and personal items within your designated space. Avoid extending legs or elbows into the aisle. Not only can this trip up other passengers, but you might get a painful encounter with the beverage cart. When someone in your row needs to get up, stand fully to let them pass instead of making them climb over you. The key insight from this research is that most annoying behaviors aren't malicious, they're just thoughtless. Once you understand what bothers other travelers, it's easy to adjust your habits to be a more considerate passenger. Which behavior on this list do you personally find most annoying when you fly? Have you ever been guilty of any of these violations without realizing how they affected other passengers? I'll admit I was definitely an unconscious space invader and overhead bin hog before learning about these survey results. Drop a comment below sharing your most frustrating airplane etiquette experience, whether you were the offender or the victim. I read every comment and love hearing real stories about what happens when travel etiquette breaks down. If this helped you identify behaviors you might want to change before your next flight, hit that like button and subscribe to Journey Tips for more insights into becoming a smarter, more considerate traveler. Share this with anyone who flies regularly. These unwritten rules could save them from accidentally annoying hundreds of fellow passengers. Thanks for traveling more thoughtfully with Journey Tips. Safe travels, and I'll see you on the next one.